Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jack Kutchiger, one at you office, bringing you our Week 2 team builder versus Jonathan and the Mauville Manectric. So it's a funny story. I actually was started a team builder video for my Week 3 matchup because I had I had prepped a couple weeks in advance, so I actually have this week's team built and next week's. So yeah, I got halfway through that video and then realized, wait, this isn't the team I was just looking at a couple nights ago when I was modifying my team. What's going on? And then I realized I was showing you the wrong team builder, so I had to cut that. And now I'm back with the right team. We are playing Jonathan Week 2. I believe he's an interconference but not interdivisional match, so you only get to play him this one time, so we do have to make it count. But going into his team before we go into my team, he has the Latias as his first C captain, which is a definite bring because since so much of my strategy revolves around spikes and hazard stacking. He only has two defoggers, Latias and the Crobat. Latias is immune to the webs and the spikes, and then is not weak to the stealth rocks as well. So it's his best defogger in order to be able to counter, make sure he comes in safely, and reliably get rid of those hazards. So if he brings Latias, I'm assuming it's going to be a defog set. It could also be Scarf set. Scarf set would be really bad, especially since I don't have any mons above faster than it. Above 110 basically, instead of Houndoom, which obviously can't run a Scarf, and Excelgor, which would be insane to run Choice Scarf Excelgor. And as you see on the screen, I am bringing it, and it is not scarfed at all. It could also be like holding a Z Crystal as a Z captain, run like a Calm Mind Roost, and then like Psychic / Draco Meteor, and if he needs a coverage move or whichever Z Crystal he likes. So yeah, it can definitely run a variety of sets. However, I do think he's going to want to bring it more bulky with that defog to try to counter the hazards that my team really likes to set up. Next up is Sylveon, and I'm also going to talk about Mega Aggron as well at the same time, just because those two really go hand in hand. They finish off his Fairy Steel Dragon core with Mega Latias, a very, very solid core. Sylveon with the really nice special bulk, Aggron with the insane physical bulk. The main thing about Aggron, though, is that it does not get reliable recovery, so even though it has a really great bulk, especially on the physical side, it does get whittled down a lot if you're not carrying like the rest. If you're not carrying rest. So Sylveon is a really good bring to complement the Aggron to make sure it can come in safely, take the special hits that Aggron doesn't really like to do, especially the fighting type moves. And then Several Wish, go back to the Aggron to get a nice back up to full. Sylveon also does get Baton Pass like all the evolutions. So then it can also, if he's running like min speed, you can set up that Wish and go for the slow Baton Pass to make sure he goes into Aggron nice and safely, he doesn't take any damage, and gets back up to basically full, depending on how low the Aggron was. So yeah, I do see those two complement each other really well. I definitely think the Aggron is going to come because I just have so many physical threats like Chestnut, like Braviary, like Drapion, like Snorlax, like Doublade, like Araquanid, that can really put hurt on in his team, and it is his best physically defensive check to all those all of my physical offensive mons. So I definitely think Aggron is a nice bring, and I like Sylveon because it resists the Dog Pulse from Mega Houndoom. It has a really nice special bulk so that I can switch in. Doesn't appreciate a Sludge Bomb obviously, but even Sludge Bomb if I'm not in Sun or if I don't have a nasty plot up, then Sludge Bomb does not do a lot if he's max especially defensive. So I think Sylveon's a good bring as well. So basically I'm really expecting those top three. Another mon I'm highly expecting is the Incineroar. It is his only mon that reliably switches into Houndoom stab moves. Every other mon does not appreciate one or the other, if not both, of Houndoom stab moves. Melodic can take one kind of well, but it does not like Solar Beam in the sun. So I definitely think Incineroar is going to come. If it does, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Selfest to make sure you can take the most amount of hits, constantly be able to switch into the Houndoom as much as possible. So I think it's going to run a Selfest because it resists both the Dark Pulse, the Flamethrower, and the Solar Beam, all three of which, if I bring Houndoom, I need to have, basically. So I really think the Incineroar is a likely bring. Melodic is a possible bring. It's not in the 6 I think it's going to bring, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does come. If it does come, I think it'll probably be in lieu of the Sylveon, just because he doesn't need those 2 special walls there. Melodic does a better job at walling the Houndoom than Sylveon does, especially if the sun is not up. But the Sylveon is a better cleric for him. And like I said, he really needs the Aggron to be healthy, so I really think that Sylveon and Aggron is a nice pair. So I do think the Sylveon is more likely to bring the Melodic, but those could be swapped up. He might bring both if he's really super scared of the Houndoom. But yeah, Melodic's just a really nice bulky water type with Recovery, Scald, Toxic, Current Sub, Dragon Tail, kind of like a phasing set. But yeah, Bronzong, a really good Steel type. I've actually considered picking up Bronzong in Draft League before, just because it has two really great abilities in Levitate and Heat Proof. It can set up rocks, set up screens. It's just one of those mons that when you look at it, it's kind of like Claydol. When you look at it, you kind of think Claydol is just like, it's alright, I guess. But actually in League format, when you can like make it more physically, especially defensive, or you can even run Trick Room with Gyro Ball, Bronzong is one of those mons that like you kind of gets overlooked a lot in draft format, but it's actually can put in a lot of work. So I don't think he's gonna bring it, just because if he does, along with like Aggron and Latios, he's just adding on to the Houndoom food. So he's gonna bring one Steel type or the other. I think it's gonna be Mega Aggron because, like I said, it does check all of my physical attackers really well. Next one is Crobat. That is definitely coming 1,000,000%, because it's super fast, only gets outsped by my Excelgor, which Excelgor can't really do anything to it, and then it goes with Brave Bird. But the main reason I think is for the defog. I really think I might be overestimating the power of my hazards a little bit, I admit that, but I really think he's going to want to bring double defog just to make sure I cannot get up my spikes or my sticky webs, just because I'll mention it a little bit later, or I'll talk about it more in depth a little bit later. But the Scarf Heracross under webs does get nuked a lot, so I really think he's gonna really want to keep those hazards off the side of the field. So I would not be surprised if he brings double defog. Other than that, if he only brings one defogger, it's probably going to be the Crobat over the Latios, just because it's a little bit faster. So it can more reliably get those defogs off, and it's not outsped by the Houndoom. So if Houndoom is in on it, it can go for Brave Bird or U-turn, that kind of stuff. Whereas Latios, if it's in on Houndoom, just dies. Yeah, so I think Crobat is a definite bring. Next one is Manectric. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he brings Manectric. It is his other Z captain. If he wants to bring like a Scarf or a Defog Latios, it still wants that Z nuke. So it is possible. Especially since I don't have any ground types on my team, I'm very weak to electric. So if you just really want something that can take advantage of Volt Switching around my team and I can't really do anything about it, Manectric is a likely bring. However, I don't think it's his best bring. I wouldn't personally bring it against me if I were him, because I really just need the defensive checks to my specific bonds, like Houndoom, like Mew, like Araquanid. And I don't think, and then he needs, of course, like some kind of setup or late game sweeper, or at least 2 of them. And I don't think Manectric fits in. He doesn't have enough room on his team for what he needs to fit in Manectric, in my opinion. Next 2 mons are Linoone and Heracross. One or the other are definitely coming. I'm more inclined to think he's going to bring Heracross. If he does bring Heracross, I both think and hope it's going to be a Scarf set. Just because Scarf Heracross is much easier for me to deal with. Scarf knock off Moxie if he does get a kill. Does cause me problems because, as you'll see in a bit, I'm not bringing the Chestnut. So that can cause me a lot of problems. But if he's the Gut set, then that causes me even more problems, which is not good. Linoone is possible. If he brings Linoone, it's going to be his late game sweeper, and I'm going to be more inclined to think Latios is a bulkier set. Just because, I mean, Linoone is... What else is Linoone going to do other than try to late game sweep with that Billy Drum Gluttony set? But I do think Heracross is the more likely bring with Scarf, because it does guarantee outspeed the Houndoom and then threaten it out. Houndoom puts in a lot of work. You probably noticed I mentioned it a lot throughout this team builder, just because it puts in so much work against this team. Like Incineroar is the only mon that Houndoom does not have super effective coverage for. I guess Crobat as well, but Crobat is not bulky enough to take a hit from Houndoom in the sun. So I mean, forget about that. But yeah, I think I'm going to go, once I get into my team, I'll go into it a little bit more as towards my thinking of Houndoom. But yeah, just because you're just in case you're getting a little bit annoyed at me for over mentioning Houndoom all the time, just because I really think he's going to prep for it a lot. And then the last mon, he has a Tangrowth. Really bulky mon, but I don't think it's going to come just because his better defensive answer is Aggron, because Tangrowth, I have a Braviary, which it can, Tangrowth is basically defensive, but Braviary has a stab Brave Bird that takes it out. And it just kind of sits there. Chestnut, I do believe, actually, I guess Tangrowth could run HP Flying if it wanted to, but I do think Chestnut would defeat the Tangrowth 1v1. And then, again, yeah, the Houndoom is just, Tangrowth is just Houndoom food. It can come in on Tangrowth all day, any day, set up, and then, boom, threaten it out with Flamethrower or Dark Pulse. So yeah, that's his team. The 6 mons I think he's going to bring are Latias, Sylveon, Aggron, Incineroar, Crobat, and Heracross. He could switch in the Melodic or the Bronze Song for either Sylveon or Aggron respectively. But yeah, so that's enough about his team. Let's go into my team. So now I'll go into a little bit more depth. I'm really banking on him trying to over prep for Houndoom because I'm not bringing Houndoom this week. I know it puts in a lot of work. It gets a lot of chances to just set up and sweep his team. I don't even need Torkoal. Like, it forces so many switches that I can just set up a nasty plot on one of the switches. And as long as he doesn't go into Scarf Heracross and webs aren't up, I could just kill everything. But I decided that he's going to really over prep. He might bring even both Sylveon and Melodic to try to have, and like defensive, especially defensive Latias with like a Colbur Berry or something. I don't think he'll prep for it that much, but I think that his prep for Houndoom will really open the door for something else to get a sweep in, which I will go into a little bit later down the road. So yeah, my strategy for this week is kind of like play around his team building prep to try to clear the way for something else. So my first one I'm bringing here is the Excelgor, Focus Sashed, Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Bug Buzz, and Encore. Excelgor does not get Taunt, which infuriated me so much when I was team building. I was like, all right, Spikes, Toxic Spike, Bug Buzz, and Taunt. Wait, it doesn't get Taunt. And I was just like, no. Because otherwise Excelgor would just be such a phenomenal lead. It also would stop Latias from setting up Calm Minds. It just would do so many things that it could stop like Crobat from like going for Defog if that happened to be in the situation. But I decided for Encore instead in case he does want to like go for Defog or some other kind of setup option. I can go for the Encore instead of the Taunt, unfortunately. But yeah, Spikes and Toxic Spikes are super important. Depending on his matchup, I'm going to prioritize one over the other. If he's more like Aggron, Incineroar, Heracross, and then maybe Lanoon, I'll go for the Spikes because Aggron is obviously immune to the Toxic Spikes, and it'll do more damage in the long run. If I see a more like Milotic, Sylveon, Tangrowth maybe, then I'm going to go for the Toxic Spikes because those chip damage is going to be really important for those versus those 3 mons. And then Bug Buzz just because I'm not taunt baited and it does hit the Latias pretty hard as well. Next one I am bringing is Braviary with leftovers sub bulk up set. Mono attacking just with the stat Brave Bird. Obviously I do get hard walled by the Aggron, so that's why if I get the opportunity up and his defoggers are weakened, I need to get those spikes up to make sure I get that chip damage. But basically Braviary comes in on a lot of different things, and it can somewhat reliably set up a substitute and start getting those bulk ups up. And then if Aggron is lacking like Roar, I can set up on that pretty well, and then if he decides to sit on the Aggron and try to like hope for the crits, I can get to +6, and then even the Aggron isn't going to want to take a +6 Brave Bird. And then max defensive here, because this allows me to take a hit from Scarf Heracross and either go for the Brave Bird or the substitute, depending on what the situation is. And Defiant to try to dissuade his defoggers from setting up those defogs if I really want to keep those spikes or toxic spikes up. Or I can set up the toxic spikes to try to bait the defog, switch into Braviary, and get that free +2 and start setting up from there. Especially against the Crobat. Latias not so much, but Crobat, after I get a couple bulk ups up, that's weird to say, can't do anything to me. And then next one we have is the Torkoal. So this is my main Aggron counter, without the Houndoom, obviously, with Stealth Rocks, Rapid Skin, Lava Plume, and Explosion. Chances are Torkoal is going to be my main lead option to make sure I get that reliable chip damage on his defoggers in Latias and Crobat, so that later on, once they're weakened or even gone, I can set up the spikes with Excel to try to get that extra chip damage mid to late game. And then Lava Plume for the Aggron, obviously I need something to hit that, otherwise Aggron could sit there for days. And then I might sub this out for Solar Beam. I was talking with Skirk was kind of helping me team build these last couple mons. I had a team built already, but then I saw another mon and I was like, wait, that could actually put in a lot of work. So I kind of talked with him a little bit. He helped me team build. So he recommended Solar Beam over the Explosion, just to make sure the Melodic can't set up like substitutes and like start phasing or just stall out Sun turns on me. I'm not totally sold on that yet. It really depends on what mons I'm more afraid of versus what mons I think I can sit on. So I'm going back and forth between that a little bit. So that may change by the time we fight tomorrow. But yeah, that's my Torkoal set. Max defensive with just the extra 4 EVs, and special attack to better switch in on the Aggron. Next up, we have Leg Day, the Drapion with the Assaultus. This is our dedicated Latias switch-in. Obviously, we're immune to the Psychic Stabs, and even Draco Meteors aren't doing too much to us. If he does go for Draco, then I obviously threaten him out, and then I could get the Pursuit off, do massive damage to the Latias, if not knock it out, depending on how much he's at. It's been a while since I actually made this set, because I made this team a couple weeks ago, and I've been modifying it a little bit ever since. So I made this EV spread. This was probably to live some... It was probably to make sure Draco Meteor does not 2-hit KO. I can live 2 full Draco Meteor. So Latias is in. I switch in, take a Draco Meteor. He's threatened out. Maybe I get the Pursuit predict wrong or something. Then I switch out. I can reliably switch back in and take another Draco Meteor. So yeah, that's what that's for, I'm pretty sure, and then the rest of the EVs are into attack. And then our 5th mon is the mon that I was just like, wait, this could put in a lot of work against this team, especially if he does not bring the Manectric. I did have an Expert Belt Mew instead of the Rotom earlier in my initial team, just because Mew has really good coverage for almost all of his mons. However, looking at his team, if he's not bringing Manectric, which like I mentioned earlier, I don't think he's going to. Wait, this isn't... What is this? This is why we do videos, guys, because you guys help me catch that kind of stuff. But yeah, so Volt Switch, Shadow Ball, Thunder Wave, and Hidden Power Flying. Hidden Power Flying for the Heracross. If I do get Stealth Rocks up, that has a really good chance to OHKO. And then Volt Switch, Shadow Ball. Basically, I can, if he doesn't have the Manectric, then I can freely Volt Switch, just like he can freely Volt Switch on me. And then Shadow Ball is my late game option if he doesn't have the Lanoon, and the Incineroar is gone. Shadow Ball just kind of, he doesn't have a resist to that at all. And then Thunder Wave, if I'm in on Rotom and I bait in, like, I don't know, the Latias, if he's predicting like the electric type move, I can go for the Thunder Wave, really hurt that thing, That makes sure that Drapion reliably outspeed so that I can threaten it with a knockoff or the pursuit. And then just Shadow Game for the late game option. I was just looking at his team and I was like, Rotom puts in a lot of work because Incineroar does not get pursuit, which it should, but it does not. So I can reliably Volt Switch out on that. And then if I do have the Stealth Rocks up and or the Spikes, Incineroar does not get reliable recovery. So even if it is Assault Vest, it will eventually get to the point where I can just start sweeping with Shadow Ball. So yeah, the Clippy here, the Rotom, is my main sweeper for this week instead of the Houndoom. And here's hoping that it gets a 6-0 because who doesn't love this little face? That little face just deserves some kills. And then the last one we have is, of course, Doublade. This would not be a Wobbuffet's team if it didn't have Doublade. So, if I see Lanoon and or Heracross, I sit on the Doublade. Because this is the only Mon that can reliably take a hit and OHKO both of them. Aerial Ace guaranteed OHKOs Heracross. Sacred Sword guaranteed OHKOs Lanoon. It might have a chance to live if I don't have any hazards up. But yeah, so basically if I see one of those, especially if I find out that Heracross is a gut set, I can live a Guts boosted knockoff, and then, like I said, OHKO with Aerial Ace. If he brings both Lanoon and Heracross, which I don't think he will, and I really hope he doesn't, that is a huge problem because Doublade can only reliably take a hit from one of them, and then OHKO, but then it can't take a hit from one and then another because it doesn't get any recoveries. So I don't think he's going to bring Lanoon and Heracross. But if he does, that could be a problem. I'm thinking about switching this out for Shadow Sneak. I had Shadow Claw earlier because when I had Mew instead of Rotom, the Breviary was my Choice Scarf set and my dedicated late game sweeper. And then I had Shadow Claw to be able to get that strong Ghost coverage for the Latios, as well as I don't know what else it's for, just like a good strong stab move. But then now that I switched to Rotom and I have that Shadow Ball, I might switch this to Shadow Sneak instead, just to get that guaranteed priority on Latios and other stuff as well. So yeah, that's my team. I'm taking a huge risk not bringing Houndoom. It could really go in my favor if he overpreps for it, and like I said, it clears the way for like Rotom to sweep late game. Or it can really hurt me if he wasn't too scared of it and has a more well-rounded team and has stuff for like if he brings like the Manectric and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my team, guys. I'm bringing some new mons that I've never used before. I've never used regular Rotom. I've never used Excelgor. I believe the speed EVs here that you see, 140, Timid guarantees outspeed something. The Crobat, I believe. Yeah, this does guarantee outspeed the Crobat, I'm pretty sure. And then max HP and special defense to take hits from certain mons as well. So that's my team, guys. Let me know what you think, and I will see you guys tomorrow, which will probably be the same day for you guys because I always upload the 2 videos back to back. But yeah, we're fighting Jonathan tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. This will definitely be an interesting match. Thanks, guys.